Excel 2007 Conditional Formulas. Here we are going to take advantage of if logic. There are if formulas that are built right into the program. They've been here in Excel for years and years and years. They're in other spreadsheet packages as well. But Microsoft wants you to understand how these work if you plan on taking that certification exam. Why does Microsoft think it's so important? Well, it really does aid the business flow and decision making. You can now test items that exist in a cell, and depending on what exists in that cell, in other words, whether it's true or false, other actions can be taken. Other pieces of information can be displayed or calculated. You can nest these formulas and you can really take advantage of and, or, and not criteria as well. Another important formula that's been around for quite a while is the VLOOKUP formula, the vertical lookup. The idea here is you can create a formula that will try to match an entry out of a large range of data. If that entry is matched, then other information from that range will be displayed. Not only are we going to take a look at VLOOKUP formulas, but we're going to assist our formula creation by making a named range. When you create a named range, you no longer have to refer to an array of cells as A2 through A82. For example, you can just simply refer to it as SKU numbers, something that is logical for humans to remember and will stick. If that range increases or decreases, you can always change the source data behind the scenes, but all those formulas that cite the name of that range can stay the way they are. Let's hop into our Sport Shop orders. We've got SKUs, products, prices, sizes, quantities, and so on down the line. I'll scroll down and you can see some of our different products that we offer. We are into sports equipment. What's our goal here? We are going to enter some orders, and then we'll have some if formulas that will test our data and have different outcomes depending on the data that's been added into the cells. So I have to start with some simple data entry. My first SKU, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The product is a batting glove. The size is small. The price is $10. The quantity is 5. And the total is just simply going to be the price times, we use an asterisk for multiplication, the quantity, enter. There's our total. Now, this is where our conditional formulas come into play, our if formulas. Okay, discount prices. If they have a certain amount of criteria here, we're going to give them a discount. With the notes, guess what? It turns out that we're out of stock on our large sizes. So if they've ordered a large, we're going to say, sorry, we're out of stock. If they've ordered anything else, we'll say, hey, thanks for your business. We appreciate it. This is the task for our very first if statement. Let's go grab the if formula. On the formulas ribbon, we can go to the insert function, and we want the if statement here. Of course, we can go to all. We can locate it there as well, but it's right here at the top. What's our logical test? Well, our logical test is whether or not cell C5 has small or has large actually in there. So our function argument, we could have typed it in, equals, and we want to test for actually an L. If cell C5 has an L, and that's case insensitive, it can be lowercase as well. What happens if it's true? If it's true, we want to say, sorry, we are out of stock. If it's false, we want to say, thanks for your order. And I'm putting the text within quotes. When I choose OK, it says, hey, thanks for your order. I'd actually like to put a period there so that we have nice grammar. Thanks for your order. Let's test it out. Let's change the size to large. Now our test has come up true. C5 equals L. Notice it doesn't matter if it's lowercase, uppercase, but the test is true. Anything other than large is going to say thanks for your order. If it says large, sorry, we're out of stock. That's our very first if statement. And this is what the syntax looks like here. Equal sign if, the test. If the test comes out true, comma, if the test comes out false, all surrounded by parentheses. Just for kicks, let's type it in from scratch. Equal sign, if, you don't have to capitalize it. As I say, we've got two formulas that start with an if. We always need parentheses there. Now it's saying, okay, what's your logical test? Well, we'll move down. Cell C6 equals large, that's our test, comma, value if true, sorry, comma, value if false, thanks. Just truncating that. You don't need to see me do all that typing. And then enter. Notice how you have this nice thing. You can follow down along the line. I did forget to put that quote though, just looking at my syntax. Sorry, thanks, enter. There we go. Well, because it came up false. If I were to put an L in here, it'd say sorry. All right. That is a basic if statement. What if we want to compare more than one piece of criteria? In our example, we'd like to give a discount. If they order something that is over $20, well, let's say if they order something that's $20 and the quantity is $10, then they're going to get a discount. So we now are going to use that if logic again. However, we need to have some and criteria in there. We'll start our equal sign again with if. We need that parenthesis. We're testing. We put the and in front. We're saying we are doing an if statement with and logic. Notice it's showing me my if information and then my and information. And is a function, so I put a parenthesis. Now it's focusing in on my and criteria. If cell D5 is greater than $19, right? 19. The second piece of criteria, and cell E5 is greater than 9. I could put more logic in there. Every comma I put in there has more comparisons. I only want 2, so I'll put that closing parenthesis. Now I'm back to my if statement. This is my logical test. If both D5 is greater than 19 and E5 is greater than 9, then that means it's true. If it's true, then I'm going to give them a discount. My discount is going to be my total, F5 times the discount, 0.9. Give them a little bit of a discount there. That's if it's true. If it's false, I'm just going to say no discount. Need to close my parenthesis off. Here's my formula. No discount. That criteria didn't match. Let's change this to $20. Still no discount. Let's change this to 10. There's our discount. We took $200 and multiplied that times 0.9 to come up with our discount price. So again, both of these criteria had to be true. That's why we put the and. This syntax might be a little strange for you because you put the and first, then you put all the factors that have to match, and then you do the rest of the if statement. Of course, this could also be an or criteria or a not criteria. So if it was anything but 19 and 9, then the true would happen. So I'm going to put or in here. Now either one of these has to be true. So I can put that price down to 10, well 12. I still get my discount. The discount changed because it's a formula, 120 times 0.9. And if I change my quantity to 5, no discount applies. Or just means one of these has to be true. All right. All right, very good. So that is the if with the and, the if with the or. Again, if I put a not in here, it'll just be the opposite. Well, all that typing was, well, a bit overwhelming. I'm going to set up a vertical lookup so that I simply have to type in the SKU, and then the system will vertically look for the SKU, find the reference across here, and display that in the cell where the item is. So I'm going to create a formula here in cell B6. That's a VLOOKUP, a vertical lookup. I'll go to my insert function here. I have VLOOKUP. I could, of course, also type in here VLOOKUP, go. It's under recommended, VLOOKUP. I have an HLOOKUP also, which is just simply the opposite. It looks horizontally across a row instead of vertically up and down a column. Lookup just does it from a one row or a one column range or from an array. It's for backward compatibility for older versions of Excel or other spreadsheet items. So we'll go with VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP is not new to Excel 2007. It's been around for quite a while because it's very functional. Okay, so what value am I looking up? Well, I'm going to look up the SKU. Whatever SKU is typed in there is what I'm going to search for among my inventory. My table array, where do I want to search and where do I want to find the value that will be displayed? I want to look through all my SKUs, certainly, but I also want to take advantage of the fact that I can have data from this array displayed in my order, and I might want to use this for my products, my prices, and my sizes. I'll expand this again. The column or index number is saying, hey, actually I don't need to expand that. What column out of this array, I have column A, B, C, and D in my array, do you want to have displayed? I'm going to do the product. That's in column 2. So I'll put a 2 there. The range lookup is a logical value. Really, you only put true in there or false. I'll put true in there. It's not applicable because I don't have any number in there. I can type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 9, 9, hit enter, and it found it for me. So it did a vertical lookup. It actually looked for this SKU. Then it looked in column 2 next to that SKU out of this range. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 9, 9. I can do a Control C. Now I can do a Control F to find that. Find what? Okay, let's see if that was true. Tennis racket. And by the way, it's a $45 adult tennis racket. All right, so that was great. That was great. Let's copy this formula over and see how it works. It didn't work, right? Because it did a relative reference. So because it did a relative reference, it simply moved everything over a column. We want this to stick as A6. We're still comparing A6. Our inventory range should remain the same, and no longer do we want to look in column 2. So I'm going to press Escape here. I'm actually going to delete these, and let's modify this formula. A6. All right. A6? Yeah, let's keep with A6. I can put F4 to make sure that we're always sticking with A6. That's an absolute reference. The inventory, A2 to D2. D82, excuse me. We always want that to be the same. So I can put dollar signs around that. We do want that column to change because sometimes we'll want to see the data that's in column 3 and column 4. So I'll press enter. Now what happens when I copy this over is close except for size. Let's check this out, and I want to freeze my panes. I want to freeze my top row so I can always scroll. Notice how my price comes before size. So price is column 3 and size is column 4, or size is D. So my size shouldn't be 2. It should be 3. That worked. And my price should be 3. Whoops, I guess I had something else in there. It's looking at C6 now. Oh, I didn't have a parenthesis around both of those. I want this to be looking still in A6. I could just type a dollar sign in front of that. All right. A6 within this range. A2 through D82, $45. Give that a format. It's funny. When I pressed F4, it should have put a dollar sign around everything. It just toggled it. Each time I press F4, it toggles it. So let's make sure that's Notice how I F4, I've got $A2, F4 again, no dollar signs, F4 again, dollar sign, dollar sign. All right, good, fantastic. Now we should be able to copy these guys around if we want to, but it still worked. Hopefully you feel comfortable. Vertical lookup, it's taking this item here, A6, it's looking for it here because this is the first column of that range. Once it finds it, it goes over within the range we selected, either to the second column, the third column, or the fourth column. Instead of having to worry about this and making a relative reference and selecting the range, wouldn't it be nice to have a named range, and then we could just simply type in the name of the range instead of selecting? It sure would be. I didn't mean to click outside of that formula, so I clicked the X. Let's go back here. We are going to create a named range. A named range means we select an array of cells and we give it all a name. Then, when we create formulas, we can simply refer to the name of the range instead of having to remember, oh, was that A2 through D82? Did it start with B? I don't remember. You can simply type the name of the range. You don't have to go out and select it. It can be very, very handy. So there's a couple of different ways that you can create a named range. First thing you do, though, is you select the cells that you'd like in your range. All right, and by the way, here's a tip. If you work with the zoom, sometimes it's a lot easier to select a range of cells because now I can just go zoop, a lot quicker to do it that way. Another quick way that you can select a range of cells is you can select the top of the range, you can press Shift on your keyboard, select the bottom of the range, and it selects the entire thing for you. I don't know if you've ever done this, but sometimes if I have hundreds of rows and I click and drag, all of a sudden I'm 100 rows below where I meant to be, and then I drag up and I'm 100 rows above where I thought I was going to be. All right, to name a range, the first step is to select the cells. The next step is to name it. The easiest way, I think, to name it is just to click in here, and we're going to call this range inventory. And I'll press enter. Now this range is inventory. When I click here, it's red or blue. When I click here, I'm just selecting that. But now I can select that and I have inventory as my named range. Let's go back here and see if this makes this VLOOKUP any easier. I'm going to go back to my formulas. I'm going to grab VLOOKUP. It is also in this area right here. VLOOKUP at the bottom, of course. My lookup value, what am I doing? I'm in A7. My table array is called inventory. Notice it figured that out. The column or index number, column 2. And I'll just put true there for the lookup. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 3. Enter. There we go. There's another batting glove. So that absolutely worked. A7, inventory, second column, and true. I should actually rearrange these columns here because I want them to match the order here, price and size, so I can just copy this formula over and have it be appropriate. So instead of B7 though, I want to look up A7, and instead of row 2, I want row 3. And let's modify this also. Instead of C7, I'm looking for A7, and this time I'm looking for column 4. Let's look a bit more at named ranges. I can go back here again. I can choose inventory. That's great. We have a whole area on the formulas toolbar, on the formulas ribbon, called defined names. When I click on Name Manager, it shows me all of my named ranges. Inventory is from this specific workbook. Here it tells me the range. If I wanted to modify that, I could just click that and reselect, add to the range, or remove from the range. I could always click my edit button here and I could put a comment in there. This is for VLOOKUPs. If someone were to ever wonder why this name range exists. Okay. I could, of course, delete this range. I could filter to see all of the named ranges I have in one worksheet, the current one, within the entire workbook, or I could even see if I've got some errors or some data tables that have been defined. Of course, if I want to delete a range, I simply select it, choose Delete, or I can go to New and create a whole new range. So I could create a range that's just called Skew, which it gave me that already. That's fine. By default, the default is in the workbook, which means anything within this file will be able to take advantage of this range. If I have it only on the Inventory Sheet tab, it's not unique within my workbook, and it's only visible right there on that sheet. So workbook is usually the best scope for your named ranges because you can take advantage of these names on different worksheets. The only reason why really you'd want to keep them on one sheet is if you're doing formulas on one sheet and you want to call it the same named range on each and every one of your sheets, and you can do that because the scope is only the worksheet and you can have duplicate names as long as they're only on one sheet. What would my range be for Skew? Well, I don't want it to be the same as inventory. I want it to be this range down to 82. And I'm thinking it would have been a lot quicker just to type that in there. So Skew would make sense. A2 through A82. F4. Okay. Let's make sure that's correct. A2 through A82 instead of D82. All right, so I'm in inventory. If I choose Skew, my range is a little bit different. Another way that I can define a range is to go right here to the Define Name. Define name or apply name. Well, I want to define a name. Note this is the same dialog box that we were in before. So I could do product, and I can change that from B2 to B82. Okay. Now let's see what product is. See what we're doing here? So then if I wanted to go back and delete Skew, I can select it, choose delete. Are you sure? Okay, I'm sure. So we just talked about how you define names, a little bit of why you want to define names, so you can just refer to these names and they're always going to cite the same range. But here's another reason. You can use one single cell as a named range or just name one cell, and then you can always refer to that same cell within many different formulas. A named range can also come in pretty handy if you have a number of different formulas and you think that the source data might change. So in your formulas, you don't want to always say cell G12. Instead, you want to say discounted price total. That way, if all sorts of base data changes, your formula doesn't have to be modified. Discount price total will always be there. You just would go back and you would change the source data that that name points to. So hopefully you see the power of named ranges and using conditional logic as well as using your VLOOKUP to find values. So you can do less typing overall. Keep in mind that HLOOKUP is just like VLOOKUP except for you're looking horizontally across a row. It's the same syntax. Here's what we covered in our conditional formula CBT nugget. We took a look at the if formulas so we could test on criteria. We did a vertical lookup formula, and we also named our ranges. There are many different ways that you can get in there and name ranges and edit ranges and delete them as well. All of these techniques here can be expounded upon within your work life to really make your use of Excel be quite efficient and hopefully a little bit fun as well. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.